Away we go. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the January. Oh my goodness. First mistake, January 2025 UTXO Alliance Town Hall. And it was uh, an eventful month for myself. I took quite a bit of time to relax, recuperate from the previous 11 months in 2024. So I am just getting back up to speed. I came back officially last week, catching up on all of the various things. I am super excited to be coming into 2025 with plenty to do in the UTXO Alliance, tons of initiatives, a lot of work to do. So I'm glad to have you all here. Very excited. Um, this, from my point of view, will be a little bit lighter on the content, but fear not, it's been um, 11 years of Digibyte as of today. We have a member from the Digibyte community and UTXO Alliance member, Jose, here to present Digibyte. Um, then we'll give a brief update, prepare for our January working group meeting, have an open mic, and wrap up to be the efficient 45 minutes of the UTXO Alliance. So uh, let me ask uh, Jose to come up on stage on unmute, and I will allow you to share screen if and when you're ready.
Okay, I'm here. And first, I just kind of want to let everybody know that this is a presentation that was built on the using the UTXO Alliance UTXO handbook. So it's not going to be so much about updates and new partnerships and stuff like that. It's going to be more about kind of putting together a presentation. All right, so
And Jose, maybe before you start, you could just say a little bit about um, why, what sparked this, and just say a little bit more about yourself, maybe.
okay.
Introduce yourself and what you worked on with Laura, who Laura is, and just a little bit of context, because I think the way that you're approaching this is ideal. It is here is a shared resource that you're making use of, and it's being used in an educational way. Um, and what I also see you doing, besides sharing the UTXO Alliance Town Hall and content into your own communities, I also see you making templates for others to make use of. And so from that perspective, it's you're enabling another platform for somebody else to take this content and make use of it in another ecosystem. And I that meta, that jump to do that is, I think, unique. So maybe you can just talk a little bit about your point of view.
Yeah. So a little bit about me. I spent 20 years in the military, and I was not like so I'm not a cryptographer. I'm not a software engineer or developer. Um, but I was attracted to the blockchain space through cryptocurrencies. The first one that was introduced to me, my younger brother asked me if I had heard about Bitcoin. And I was like, no, that, I've never heard of it. And he kind of introduced me to cryptocurrencies. But because I was using the Robinhood app, I seen that there was different cryptocurrencies, and I immediately went to Doge because it was the cheapest. And I was like, well, maybe one day. And I think it was like 2019. The price of Bitcoin was like had just hit a new all-time high of $9,000. And I was like, well, maybe Dogecoin will do that. And back then, I didn't understand the difference between uh, a max supply, unlimited supply, proof of work, proof of stake, and just a bunch of different concepts I didn't understand. I was like, okay, this is something that's going to go up. But did a little bit more digging into blockchain, and that's where I kind of found Digibyte. And I was, immediately attracted to its security, its features of security. It's multi-algo, meaning it has 5 different algorithms that secure the blockchain. It has this protocol that was built, DigiShield, then multi-shield when we went multi-algo. So I was just very interested in all the tech aspect. So that's what drew me in. Unfortunately, today Laura's not here. She had other things she had to take care of. And I'm actually part of the DigiByte awareness team, and we work together with other entities that support DigiByte. But the approach that I took to putting this together was based off of the UTXO Alliance, UTXO handbook, and wanted to put something together where we could put this resource to use. And I think I had mentioned this before in a different conversation. I see this kind of like an experiment. This being a sample of one, and then every following chain member of the UTXO Alliance can use parts of it, build on top of what I've done, or use it for their own purposes. But I think, yeah, I don't know if that answers all the questions. I did want to mention a couple more small things. So Digibyte it's got a max supply of 21 billion, which will kind of tie into the presentation. It's a public, open source proof of work UTXO blockchain. So it's open for everyone, anyone to use. So Steph, let me know when if you want me to start this presentation.
I just wanted to appreciate the point of view. I think from all the various directions that people come into the blockchain space and how they first hear about things, and then in which path does the learning and education go, and how to kind of like what is the common denominator that we all share. And I just think that each story is fascinating. And I think what you're seeing and noticing is we have a responsibility to educate the people in our immediate circles and wider communities. And I think that you're doing that. And so, uh, yes, we can start the presentation and, say what you want to say, and then we can chat just afterwards.
Okay. All right. Are you guys seeing my screen? All right.
Yep.
Greetings, everyone. My name is Jose, and I'm excited to present Digibyte flavored UTXO specifications. This presentation is derived from the UTXO Alliance UTXO handbook, specifically covering the ingredients for a blockchain and general UTXO specifications. Authors, contributors, and anyone familiar with the handbook will recognize the outline of this presentation with a pinch of Digibyte flavor. At today's town hall, I'll be discussing cryptographic primitives, transactions on the network, whole transaction graph plus UTXO set, blocks on the network, and features of the chain. Now that we know what will be covered, let's get started. Cryptographic primitives. And Digibyte. In the Digibyte blockchain, cryptographic primitives are essential for maintaining the security and integrity of the network. Two key components are hash functions and digital signatures. Hash functions create a secure and tamper-proof chain of blocks linking each block to its predecessor through an ongoing chain of hash-based proof of work. This ensures that any attempt to alter the transactions would require redoing the proof of work for this block and all subsequent blocks, making tampering computationally impractical. Digital signatures using the elliptic curve digital signature algorithm, ECDSA, provide cryptographic proofs of ownership and authorization. This algorithm ensures that each transaction is securely signed by the sender using their private key, and the signature can be verified by anyone using the sender's public key. This guarantees that the transaction was indeed authorized by the rightful owner, preventing unauthorized spending and ensuring that the transactions are legitimate and verifiable. These cryptographic techniques are fundamental to maintaining the security and integrity of the Digibyte network. Now, let's dive into how transactions work on the Digibyte network. Transactions are fundamental units of the Digibyte network. Here are some key points. Inputs. Inputs are references to previous transactions, transaction outputs that are being spent in a current transaction. Each input includes a reference to previous transactions and a cryptographic signature that proves ownership. Outputs. Outputs specify the new ownership of the digibytes being transferred. Each output includes an amount and a cryptographic key, public key of the recipient. Change. If the total value of the inputs exceed the amount being sent, the difference is returned to the sender as change through an additional output. Inputs and outputs are crucial components of transactions on the Digibyte network. Next, let's explore the whole transaction graph and the UTXO set. The whole transaction graph outlines transactions, how transactions are linked together in a chain. Each transaction references previous transactions, outputs as inputs, creating a graph of transactions. This graph ensures that all transactions are traceable, verifiable, preventing double spending. The concept of unspent transaction outputs, UTXOs, is central to Digibyte's operation. Each transaction outputs can be spent only once, and the set of all unspent outputs, UTXO set, is maintained by the network. This set is used to verify the validity of new transactions by ensuring that the inputs have not already been spent. These mechanisms are crucial for maintaining the integrity and security of the Digibyte network. Wallets in the Digibyte network manage users' UTXOs. They generate and store public and private keys, sign transactions using private keys, and verify transactions using public keys. Wallets also track outputs, which outputs are available for spending, and use them as inputs for new transactions. The ledger in the Digibyte network is a public, distributed, and tamper-proof record of all transactions. It is maintained by a network of nodes, ensuring transparency and decentralization. The ledger's integrity is secured through cryptographic hash functions and proof of work, making it resistant to tampering. The concept of conservation law in Digibyte addresses mechanisms that prevent double spending and ensure the integrity of the transaction ledger. The network maintains a consistent and tamper-proof ledger using cryptographic proof of work and a distributed timestamp server. The sum of all inputs must equal the sum of all outputs. Now let's dive into blocks on the network. In Digibyte, blocks are a fundamental part of the network structure. Each block contains a list of transactions, a timestamp, a reference to previous blocks, a proof of work. This structure ensures that blocks are linked together in a chain, forming the blockchain. Block headers play a crucial role in maintaining the integrity of the blockchain. Each block header includes several important pieces of information: version, previous block hash, Merkle root, timestamp, difficulty target, and knots. The block header includes the proof of work, a computational puzzle that miners must solve to add a new block to the blockchain. This ensures the security and immutability of the blockchain. Blocks are added to the network at an average interval of about 15 seconds. The difficulty of the proof of work puzzle adjusts in real time as each block is mined. This process secures the network by making it computationally difficult to alter any part of the blockchain. A special type of transaction included in each block is the Coinbase transaction. This transaction is the first in the block and is used to reward the miners who successfully mine the block. The reward consists of newly created digibytes, block subsidy, and any transaction fees from transactions included in the block. Unlike regular transactions, the Coinbase transaction does not have any inputs. Instead, it creates new digibytes, introducing them into circulation. The Coinbase transaction can include arbitrary data, and its input field, often used by miners to include extra information, such as messages or mining pool's name. This transaction is a crucial part of Digibyte's incentive mechanism, encouraging miners to participate in securing the network by providing them with a financial reward. These points highlight the importance of the Coinbase transaction in maintaining the Digibyte network security and incentivizing miners. Next, let's explore blocks on the chain. So, chain. The concept of the Genesis block is fundamental to understanding the Digibyte blockchain. The Genesis block was mined on January 10, 2014, marking the beginning of the Digibyte blockchain. In Digibyte, the longest chain of blocks is considered the valid chain. This means that the chain with the most accumulated proof of work is recognized as the correct version of the blockchain. The network relies on nodes to follow the longest chain, which represents the most computational work. The consensus mechanism in Digibyte is based on proof of work. Miners solve complex mathematical problems to add new blocks to the blockchain. This process ensures that the majority of computational power is controlled by honest nodes. The longest chain rule ensures that any attempt to alter the blockchain will require redoing the proof of work for that block and all subsequent blocks, making it computationally impractical for an attacker to succeed. Decentralized consensus is a key feature of the Digibyte network. The consensus mechanism allows the network to operate without a central authority. Nodes independently verify transactions and blocks, and the longest chain serves as a decentralized consensus on the state of the blockchain. The security of this consensus mechanism is such that an attacker would need to control a significant percentage of one algorithm and a speculative 11 to 35% of each remaining algorithm's computational power to alter the blockchain, making it highly secure against attacks. The state of the Digibyte network is distributed in nature. And this ensures that the system remains decentralized and resistant to censorship. The network is peer-to-peer, meaning that nodes communicate directly with each other. Transactions are broadcast on a best effort basis, and nodes can leave and rejoin the network at will, accepting the longest proof of work chain as proof of what happened while they were gone. The consensus mechanism ensures that all nodes agree on the state of the blockchain. The network security relies on the majority of the computational power being controlled by honest nodes. As long as this condition is met, the network remains secure, and the longest and heaviest chain will always represent the valid state of the blockchain. These principles ensure that Digibyte network remains secure, decentralized, and resilient. In summary, Digibyte's robust security and efficiency are built on a foundation of advanced cryptographic primitives, including hash functions and digital signatures. These elements ensure the integrity and authenticity of transactions on the Digibyte network. Digibyte utilizes the UTXO unspent transaction output model to manage transactions, maintaining a comprehensive transaction graph of UTX and UTXO set. This model allows for efficient tracking of funds and ensures that all transactions are accurately recorded and verified. Blocks on the Digibyte network serve as a container for transactions forming the backbone of the blockchain. Each block includes a header with crucial information and a list of transactions, ensuring transparency and security. The chain of blocks represents Digibyte's entire transaction history, maintained through the longest and heaviest chain rule, which prioritizes the most secure and proof of work accumulated chain. By leveraging these techniques, Digibyte offers a secure, efficient, and transparent blockchain solution, making it a reliable choice for digital transactions and decentralized applications. This concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
Bravo. Guys, I just put into chat a blog post that represents this presentation that Jose put together. I just want to briefly reference it, and then let's do a little Q&A or conversation. Um, but I think the leading image kind of represents the point here is and Jose, this is a question for you, is if we have cycles in the crypto market and an influx of new entrants come into the space, it's unknown by which paths they come in, but um, to service them with education um, is, again, our responsibility because a lot of people are probably going to be approaching this from a speculative gambling, um, get rich quick um, point of view, and that can have really emotional upsides and downsides. And it also kind of forms somewhat of a tribalistic point of view. If you come in and potentially you're you are seeing the increase in the price of the initial token that you come into the space with, you may get rooted into that and feel like that's the one that you promote, that's the one that that is your community. And from a UTXO Alliance point of view, I just think that we should help people expand that experience. So, Jose, what I see you doing is kind of enabling our ability to take a presentation like this and expand it to each of the UTXO Alliance member chains. So, from that kind of point of view, um, a question for you is uh, one, um, did you feel empowered by the handbook? Two, did you find the visualizations accessible? And three, how would you think about making a last slide that introduces the UTXO Alliance and various trade-offs?
All right. Um, so from a new user perspective, and kind of like, I talked about it, when I introduced myself, didn't understand the difference between different blockchains. And then, throughout the years and studying Digibyte, I started to see how, there's differences in, smart contracts and different, differences between UTXO models and the EMV model or account model. And I think the information's out there. And when during my research for this, I look at it like a project, but my research for this presentation, it basically went back to the Bitcoin white paper. And so all the information's out there, but the problem is that a lot of people don't bring it forward. It's kind of like you have to go find it. So my approach to this is meeting people where they're at. And it's kind of like, here it is, it's up to them now to look at the information, but making it accessible and sharing the references where they can find that information. So I think that is one thing that, hopefully I can do here with the Digibyte community and share this information. If maybe they hadn't heard, and during my research, I couldn't find where the Bitcoin white paper talked about the whole transaction graph, but it doesn't specifically mention it in in those terms. But everything that's within that is in the white paper. Same thing with like the conservation law. That somebody coined or put together to kind of reference that, but it all kind of goes back to the white paper. And definitely, like, I think that this can expand, and hopefully this is what what I see, or what happens is that we can see how the different blockchains compare, And that's probably like a next, the next project is putting something together that can do that. Um, what were your other questions?
Just on visualizations, you didn't include visualizations.
Okay.
Just curious why.
Um, I I left those out. I did intend to put some visuals in, and it was going to be more of like images of the wallet. Like I had some screenshots of the Digibyte Core wallet where it shows like inputs and outputs, and same thing with screenshots of the crypto ID, the Explorer, where you can find a lot of the information where you can obviously see the how all the inputs that a person sending to another person are being used to create that next output when that person receives it. And when I mean, it shows it right there. Um, you can also find where the when you look at the raw transaction, you can see that the hash code for that transaction that was added to the block. I was thinking about doing that, but then I was like, all right, let's just keep them more simple. There was already enough information that was going to be kind of fire hosed at whoever received this. And so just like, all right, let's just keep it simple. And that is another thing that we can build upon. But the visuals from the handbook, yeah, could have definitely included those to kind of show how the transactions are working. And of course, like,
I'm just sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, no, I was gonna say, yeah, that would, I think that would have it helped those visual learners to be able to look and see the process. But that's probably something that I'll have to work on for my next presentation or information that I share with the Digibyte community.
Yeah, I'm just trying to get a sense if the visualizations from your perspective would, it puts a lot on screen, and if you're trying to explain either the image or the phrasing, it could just become too much. And maybe if it wasn't specific enough to Digibyte, then it would get lost. And if you felt like it wasn't specific enough to Digibyte, that would be valuable feedback, because then it would be okay, maybe we need to just add these visualizations with a specific place where we could put, like, this is true for Digibyte, or this is true for Half, or this is true for Nervos, or this is true for Cardano. Um, so just feedback I was trying to get.
Yeah, no, I think that if we can get people to look at the handbook, and that's kind of like bringing the information to the audience. If they can look at it, I think that that would be a good way of getting those visuals. And then I really and some another point is that I think that some of the information might be understandable for a kind of a higher somebody who has more advanced knowledge in crypto and these visuals and how the transaction works. But yeah, no, I think that that is definitely something that I need to start working on and being able to explain and just adding it to the presentation and the information.
I'll let I'll let anybody else grill you with a question if they have one.
Well, perhaps this is not one directly related to the presentation, but I'm curious how governance works in Digibyte. How do you guys decide to support a hard fork versus not doing so? I think that the last one you guys had was around 2014.
Yeah. So, that's a great question. And I didn't mention this. We're actually going through an upgrade right now. We're going from Digibyte Core version 7.17.3 to version 8.22. And there's a soft fork that's included in there, which is the Taproot activation. Now, how those implementations that, so we're basically adding all the code from Bitcoin version 0.18 all the way up to version 22. How that was added, I think that was maybe decided by the core developers, is like, hey, we need to update this. But when it comes to making when somebody wants to contribute to the the core code, we use the similar to Bitcoin, how it uses the Bitcoin improvement proposals. We use the Digibyte improvement proposals, and so for us, we have a little bit of a different governance structure. It's based on people contributing on a volunteer basis, and there isn't like some projects have a way to collect some funds to fund development. We basically depend on core contributors to do the work, people who want to volunteer and contribute code, and sometimes money is raised through donations. And so if somebody wants to implement something like, hey, we're going to pay these people to implement a certain code, we can raise the funds through community donations. But besides that, it really, you know, we so it's a very decentralized governance structure, which it and once somebody wants to contribute code, it's got to go through the pull request and review process to get added. So I'm not sure. Is that good? Okay.
So appreciate that, Jose, and that work you're doing. Um, Congratulations on 11 years of Digibyte. There's probably a lot to be learned about the fact that we're in the first decade of most blockchains being active and improved upon. And I think the long-term perspective that we should be taking is that these are systems that are going to be around for decades or centuries, potentially longer. And that's just a different kind of institution to think about. So 11 years is incredible, and it does require the type of volunteers to keep it going, like yourself. So just wanted to highlight that and dovetail that into, okay, so we have some base material for sharing education and information about chains. That's the handbook. The handbook is not finished, right? It's always going to be an iterative process. So we can't stop at where we're at. We need to deepen the visualizations and expand them so that we can do even more. Jose's example is from heard of Bitcoin, Doge was available, deepened, and got into Digibyte. I don't even know if we've even begun to leverage our Bitcoin, Dogecoin connection to the broader masses to make them aware of what are the other aspects that you can dive deeper into. So from my point of view, I mean, there's a ton of work to be done. And okay, so acknowledging that, we can see that maybe what Jose's demonstrated here is that a handbook will enable different communities to be able to talk and onboard new members. So let's just consider this as an example. Obviously, I think Jose would say there's a next version of this that says, here are the trade-offs Digibyte chooses. Here are visualizations that help explain it. And here, if you are curious about more information, go to the UTXO Alliance, and you could see how that kind of snowballs. an update from Wolfram's perspective is we will be using the UTXO Alliance handbook visualizations and explanations to create a technical course. That will be going out starting March 31st of this year. And essentially just going to do the same thing as what Jose just did, and try to really employ as many tools as possible, get as many people through that pathway, and then just iterate it up essentially and do that over and over again. And then another point of view from that we just want to share is that Wolfram is working on a new UTXO Alliance website. The point is to give ourselves a little more accessibility to make changes to the website, to upgrade it, to be able to be a little more flexible and adaptive, just simply because it's kind of being, it was originally established. A lot of the same content will obviously be the same, but from one organization to a next, the kind of updating versions is a little difficult. So new beginnings, new websites, new attempts at doing all this stuff. With that said, the working group meeting coming up here in January, I'd like to extend the amount of hours on it, double it, make it a 2-hour meeting. I'm sure that's probably longer than most people can attend for, but I just think that we probably need more than 1 hour to dive in a little bit deeper, get our hands dirty. And 3 of the things that I would like to cover in that are specify roles in the UTXO Alliance. So this is to help us have a little more just accountability, a little more clarity, a little more no single points of failure. So for example, if I if I'm running the Zoom account and I decide to take a vacation, the whole UTXO Alliance doesn't depend upon my Zoom account or sending out that email. Small example, but these are some basic things that I can use help with, and that I would like to welcome in more leadership roles, see who's interested in taking some responsibility for technical content and operations working groups, working on things like the website, working on things like iterating the educational content, making visualizations, and then, proselytizing to the masses. So that was probably a lot, but I would like to go into our open mic now and just chat about feedback on meeting cadences from the previous 6 months. Would you prefer more meetings or longer or more heads up? Let's get into initiatives and alignment, and then any other feedback that people have.
A couple of bits of feedback. So, yeah, if you can just put the slide you had open up there for a moment. I think the meeting cadence is about right, but I'd love to have that one pager where we lock down as resources for everybody, a one pager on UTXO Alliance, because it'll make it easier to explain how you engage, what you can do, all of those sorts of things, and where to go. So I think I sent a draft ages ago. It's very difficult to get that over the line. So figuring out what are the blocking points, who needs to say yes or fill in the blanks, or what can we remove because we don't have an answer, I think that would be useful. In terms of clear initiatives, it would be great to have more technology alignment initiatives, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if there's appetite for it, but the UTXO Alliance could be a standardization body. I want to check within IOG the degree to which that there's ambition, interest, engagement in which particular areas, how do you frame that, those sorts of things. But I think that would be interesting to explore more. And I think with that will come more alignment, because it'll be clearer what the output is, what the engagement is, and what the success measures are as well that come out of that. One other thing I kind of also wanted to mention as well, just sharing it in chat, is we published 6 reasons why the UTXO model wins as well on the IOG blog. So, you know, please reuse that on the UTXO website. And I'd recommend people take a look at it if they haven't. It's quite a nice, simple sort of story of explaining why the UTXO model is better than the account model in many ways.
That was a great resource. Any responses there, John? Your hand is up.
Yeah. So one thing, Rupert, that I think might be like a half step in that technical coordination perspective is looking at services that are really like require like minimal levels of cooperation, but are clearly infrastructure things that are very useful. So one example of that Wolfram Blockchain Labs has been working on is just real-time data pricing from DEXs. So that's one kind of area. But then another area that we've kind of seen becomes incredibly important is then standardization around token ticker symbols, metadata, and everything else around all types of tokens from fungible to non-fungible, because that ends up being incredibly important just so they're not collisions with tickers, but then so that they're aligned and kind of useful across maybe the UTXO space and just blockchain space in general. So I think there may be other projects like that while there are technical coordination, it's kind of fairly simple for people to adopt and use them with, you know, instant usefulness for their communities.
Standardization at all levels. So yeah, so what John's saying is Wolfram Blockchain Labs has been collecting from centralized and decentralized exchanges daily crypto pricing data, volume data, candlestick data, all that stuff. Part of that is for oracles to be able to implement and bring on chain. It's kind of already set up to be operating in Cardano. So if there's an availability to be useful on the extended UTXO model, but it's broad enough to be used in any other UTXO model. And another highlight there is that there is a standardized body that says we're going to give it an international token identification number, an ITIN, and from that perspective, across all chains, can we have a consistent standardization of tickers? So noted, John, as one of the standardization projects.
I think that's a brilliant idea, and it's kind of, I'd like alongside that a long list of the art of the possible. So you've got that, and there's a long list of other potential projects that you could standardize. And there's an effort impact ratio, and there's a thing you've got to look at in terms of what's the appetite for all of these things. But it would be good to kind of have that wider conversation and begin to find, are we missing anything? I just have this kind of hunch that there is a possible place that could really drive a lot of value if we thought about this, but I don't know the topic well enough, and I haven't really done enough stakeholder analysis internally to get that answer. And so we've already got Hydra, BOS, RGB, you know, Lightning Racing Bridge. There's quite a lot potentially here. Let's think about how we prioritize these and which ones we really go, let's bet on this.
Yeah, it's been a little while since I think the Rosen Bridge presentation occurred about a year and a half ago. And I'd just be curious to get an update there if that is a because that's from my perspective one of the most interoperable initiatives. But you know, why is this bridge different? How is it making inroads? Are all still questions that I'd like more information about. James Amon from Topple, now at Constellation, he had showed up, I think, once in the past month, but he was very interested in various UTXO chains running their own Hydra heads, and that was an initiative. But what's the follow-up, follow-through on those kinds of questions? And then RGB++, at least I was hearing from obviously Nervos and from Fractal and from the Zengate Global team, and then from a couple other teams that applied for the UTXO Alliance, which I haven't heard back from. RGB++ kept coming up. And, and then recently Blockchain OS, and technically, who's keeping the map of it so that we're all aware of it, so that we can even say, we all learned this about Rosenbridge last week. You weren't here, but here was what the group in the room did learn about. And that meant an outcome was this. And so a lot of it feels like it's documentation, archiving, sense making, in my opinion. And well, your points are taken, Rupert. And so that kind of, go ahead, please.
No, that's great. I'm just, yeah, it's one to consider. I don't have any easy answers. I think it's just we need a space to kind of figure that out and be a little bit more systematic of, this is a backlog of the kind of areas we could collaborate on. We'll then have an agenda where we explore them in a bit more detail, and we'll look at the pros and cons of whether interests align and it works to do something around each of these things. It may or may not. It could be just information is at one extreme, on the other it's like, actually, let's do a full standardization effort on the other. And there could be other options in between. So it's kind of figuring out where you want to put the slider on each of those.
Yeah. There's a question for Nil and then Matt. Nil being one of the newest faces here and having fresh perspectives, and then Matt, I'm just going to say you have some long-standing impressions of what we've been doing and would love your feedback. So Nil, you want to just come off mute and just, I know you came in a little bit late, but what's on top of mind from your perspective and what you've seen so far?
Yeah, no, sorry, I was late. Jan and I were actually on a Twitter space, and he was like, "Oh, there's a town hall now," and I didn't actually have it on my calendar, so I just dropped off and came in. So apologies. Yeah, I know I've dropped in a bit late, but this is our second town hall. I think our first town hall was just introducing ourselves and getting to know you guys. I think since the last town hall to date, we've just been doing a lot of like educational stuff. I think we've kind of come to our community to let them know that we are UTXO based. And that's not something we've done since in 5 years. Like we've just celebrated our 5th birthday. By the way, Jose, congratulations on 11 years. We've just celebrated our 5th birthday, and yeah, like being a bit more technical, because the thing is, like, we're a layer one. We're listed on a lot of the top exchanges. Our community are mainly community based on traders, and now we're kind of transitioning and trying to really because a lot of our use cases and where we've been over the last 5 years have been more traditional finance, RWA, and so on. And now we're really trying to capture, the degen market, enter into DeFi, really promote our unique architecture of, our nano contracts, low code smart contracts, feelessness, and so on. So so yeah, like showcasing what UTXO is good for the education on grabbing the developers and assisting with new initiatives like our grants program. We basically got a more building approach moving forward since Q4 of last year. So I think Jose's blog has and also the one that Rupert put out has kind of made me realize that actually this sort of content is needed, because I wouldn't have thought. I would have just pushed the UTXO handbook out and thought, give this to the community. They don't really half understand it. Like for me, background from my side, I'm not a technical person. I'm a creative. So my background is always been art. My degree is arts, and I just do design and I make things look pretty. But I can speak at a technical capacity over the last 5 years. But yeah, like now seeing those two blogs and reading them, I skimmed over both. I do see that there is a need, especially if you are trying to educate developers, because for us, developers is what we need to kind of build more interesting things on our chain. Our chain is very, very beautiful to build on, but if I give feedback to ourselves, we don't have many builders building. Apart from the big institutional use cases we have, we don't have we don't have many builders from outside our community that are building. So yeah, I think from what's happened over the last month or two joining the Alliance, it's been a good education for myself and also for the community, since we've been doing a lot of co-marketing with UTXO. And I think another good thing is, and what touched on what Rupert says, is for us, I can only speak on my behalf, and maybe this is fresh from someone who's more of a creative and someone that is more community focused and more BD focused, rather than someone like Jan or Marcelo, who are dev background. Is for me, it's how we can work together, how we can build infrastructure together, and how we can kind of say, look, we're sitting at the table with all these projects. We all have some sort of community. We all have some sort of unique proposition. We all carry some sort of weight. How can we really, whether it's cross-community stuff or whether it's actual infrastructure, that's where what excites me about the Alliance. That's what I think my intention is, or what I aim to get out of these town halls. So yeah, overall, I thought the presentation was good. Sorry, I caught half of it, Jose. And yeah, like the UTXO versus account model argument and conversation is really cool. And we've been mentioning it in a couple of our Twitter spaces. We have one now as well. And now we wouldn't usually say we're a layer one that's UTXO based. Now we say we're UTXO based. And I think that's something that's come with joining an alliance and knowing that UTXO is important, you know, and has, because I said this before, when I met Kushti at a KuCoin event randomly in Dubai, he was telling me, he was shilling me the UTXO Alliance. And that's the reason I joined. And I had no idea. I said, Kushti, it's great to meet you. I'm not really technically well versed, but I'll give it a go. And here I am now, you know, I've learned about UTXO, and so many projects similar to ours that I found I couldn't really connect with compared to some of the other projects that we see out. It's all the hidden gems all together, really, right? And yeah,
Yeah.
I think infrastructure and cross community and awareness is what I want to aim for 2025 with you guys.
Yeah, I love, thanks for that feedback. It's just crazy because Kushti is probably one of the few people, I don't know how many hundreds, maybe a few thousand people that probably speak very confidently about what the differences are between a UTXO or account model, or can even just kind of like speak to it at a very technical level and probably at a more introductory level. My own development has, I've gotten more confident in being able to speak about the UTXO model. And I just think, you know, in that one conversation between you and Kushti is the difference between one more person learning it and however large your own community is, which is tens of thousands. So, you know,
That's crazy.
we're fighting this battle really in a word of mouth, one-to-one basis, because there are these people like yourself managing community, so really it reinforces the fact that uh, helping one more person understand this stuff opens up something huge. And I
100%.
think if we just kind of, yeah, I mean,
Just
it's
to add to that,
obvious.
the way the conversation broke down was because I'm not very technically well versed, so it wasn't like, "Are you a UTXO?" And I'm like, "Yeah, we are UTXO." Actually, how we came to that understanding while we were just chatting was, I was talking about mining and then proof of work. So these attributes kind of linked to this conversation that we are UTXO, you know. And then I just put it on Telegram at the event. Oh yeah, no, we're UTXO, right? And he goes, yeah, we are UTXO. So but it was off these little attributes like being a project that has mining pools, proof of work. So actually those are things that we should try and use in
Mhm.
content stream as well. Like, did you know that we could do like a content on proof of work or mining pools or whatever it may be. That's how the conversation got to UTXO. And if we piggyback off some of those attributes that are bigger, then people may get more awareness of what UTXO is, you know.
Yeah, fair.
So
Appreciate that. Matt, I said I wanted to get your opinion, so please close us out here.
Okay. Yeah, I think I think overall we're kind of finding our bearings here. I think for a while, I know Steph, you and Ignacio, you guys are really doing the hard work of keeping the wheels moving while it was kind of like we were struggling to kind of find our way. But I think this like we're getting there and seeing kind of the new faces that are coming in. I think are indicative of that. And I do like the idea of having some longer meetings. I like, formalizing more info. I like Rupert's suggestion around some, standardizing of this info. Um, I think that the most important thing right now is just bringing in more, more projects, more people that are building in this way. I think we have a real asset in that we're all building this way because we believe that this is the right way to build. And I think with the account model, I'm sure people have some feelings around like this is how you build programmable blockchains, and it's not really questioned, but it's also not, there's not kind of a versus B kind of an analysis there, or at least it's not that deep. And I see on that side of the industry it's much more kind of like opportunity driven. And I think if we can draw in the people that have strong beliefs around this is how blockchain should work, and kind of like get us all together. I mean, I don't see another group that's like this out there. I see kind of like the proof points around UTXO is growing. I mean, I started to see more and more people talking about it. There was one of the BitVM guys, Super Testnet, was just contrasting like building BitVM things into Lightning instead of using it as securing a completely separate like EVM based blockchain. And like this is kind of like the divergent path that the industry is going down now. It's like, do we double down on UTXOs or we double down on accounts? And I think me and I'm sure a number of other people here could talk for days about why we're building the way we are. And I think we really have to stay with that. And Steph, yeah, I loved your expression that it really is just about like one person at a time. I think it's a really powerful thing. It's slow, but we've already been at this for years, so I don't think anything changes there. I think one challenge I do see is that people really care about like seeing, like say pump.fund, for example, they care about like what can I use this for, what can I do today, whereas we're talking about things more theoretically and conceptually. For example, one of our partners today just let me know that they for the first time created a channel between an EVM chain and a UTXO chain. And I'm like, to me that's impressive, but to the broader market I don't think anyone would really, it wouldn't go too far. So I think in terms of Rupert's suggestion around like picking a few solutions and really kind of like diving deep on those, I think that's the right approach, that we do want to elevate things that people can make sense of and that maybe we can find some excitement around. But I think there's going to be a good amount of trial and error as we kind of figure out like what are the things that will get us awareness. But I agree with a lot of the things that are being expressed right now.
Anybody want to give feedback to what Matt said? I love that.
Sounds good. I agree. It's a short version.
Matt, last thing, I just reached out to, I don't know how to pronounce his name, Kwang, who is a Nervos co-founder, because I like what he's been tweeting about, and I think he's building something for AI in crypto. And just from a education, let's be at the edge kind of point of view, I asked him to potentially come present Kalani, what he's building now. Are you close with him? Do you think that's a good ask?
I've really struggled to get those guys to show off any of their work. Yeah, if you're pushing that conversation, I can definitely push from my end as well. I think they kind of flip back between poles of like they're really excited about what they're working on. They want to tell everybody, or it's like it's not ready. We're still baking it. So let me know how the conversation goes if you get a response. Yeah, more than happy to reach out. I know they're kind of trying to straddle the line between accounts and UTXOs, but I do think a lot of their the solution, like what they're thinking about is what the solution to the broader problem is based on UTXOs. So I think it's a good fit. It's just going to be a challenge to kind of get them to commit to something.
Good to know. Okay. Well, great. If there's any last words, just please speak up. But thank you again, Jose, for the presentation. Appreciate the work you're doing. Everybody else, thanks for being here. Any last words from anyone? Appreciate you all. Thanks again, and talk soon. And there will be a calendar invite for Neil on town halls and working groups.
And Jan, unless he's already on there, he's the one who reminded me. Maybe it's just me.
I've got his name. Yep, I got his email. I mean, cheers,
Awesome.
all. Thanks. Bye.
Take care, everybody. Thanks.